Hello, it's Scott Manley here, and today I would like to look at a video game called Phoenix Point. It's by somebody called Julian Gollop. Now, if you're not into games or weren't into games for the last 40 years like me, you may not know who Julian Gollop is, but in 1980s he started creating these turn-based, tactical, squad-based shooting games. You know, the kind of thing where you'd move your people around a map and then shoot at things. Games like Chaos, Laser Squad, Rebel Star, and he also then in the 1990s merged this with a larger scale tactical simulation and created a game called UFO Enemy Unknown, also known as XCOM, and that proved to be a timeless hit. A game which you can still download the original game, you can buy it online, and it is still worth your time to play it. It is such a perfect game. So he'd done a few other things in the meantime, and obviously XCOM was remade. But a few years ago, he decided to do a crowdfunding campaign for a game called Phoenix Point, which would take the modern XCOM visuals and then pair it with more granular, harder core, turn-based combat. And he's placed in a different environment. It isn't repelling aliens. It's a virus that was unlocked when the permafrost melted. And you are literally fighting a terror from the deep in the form of crab people. So as I said, there's a large-scale tactical simulation where you've got the whole world to explore. It is a post-apocalyptic world where everybody is fragmented and hides in havens. There's three major factions that are all to have their own take on how to live in this new future. You can build hardware in your research, you can research stuff, and you can travel around, finding things to explore or scanning areas. So this is me checking this signal out, and it's the Synedrion, who are one of the factions, and they're like, well, we can't beat the virus, so let's just have it in its place, and we will live in our place, and everybody will be happy, and I can't be bothered with this faction at all. But they do have laser rifles. But you'll notice there that I researched the atmospheric analysis, so now I can see the red mist, which is inundating the coastline and making people go crazy. Go to another place, what do we find? We find the fire within. So these are the disciples of Anu, and they are having a problem with fireworms. So I'm just going to deploy my squad. You start out with like 5 dudes, or well, 5 characters actually. Some of them can be women and they can be excellent fighters. So yeah, they are dudes, and I love you dudes, right? Anyway, yeah. Oh, there we go. Look, you get the nice little animations between the missions showing the Manticore dropship. There are different dropships in the game. The different factions, when you get to know them, they give you access to technology which does different things. For example, the Disciples of Anu have a big-ass airship that lets you travel around in style and carry a whole lot more people. So yeah, this is my heavy weapons dude. He has a jetpack. I'm going to put him up high so he can actually surveil the situation. Unfortunately, his big gun is kind of lousy and hard to maneuver, so he doesn't get to fire this turn. So yeah, as I said, this is very similar to XCOM in that you go into this map and you select where you want to move. You can choose to move, you can choose to fire, you have a limited number of actions. Now, the original XCOM, you had a very granular system where you would have like multiple action points, and you could spend 1 action point to move a square, or you could, spend 10 to shoot your gun. This case, you now have 4, where it's obviously not quite as granular, but it's at the same time, it's more granular than XCOM, where you could only have 2 actions every turn typically, except for special abilities, and there were a lot of special abilities in that game. Anyway, look, this is kind of the bread and butter of these tactical games. These worms I'm shooting, these are obviously very simple things early on, but they do explode if they get too close. This is my sniper dude trying to kill it. There you go. Sniper, yeah, Ethan Grames. I'm going to say they are mostly dudes, largely because a lot of the names are based on the backers who, basically they paid for early access and they got to put their name in the game. Yeah, failed to hit that. So look, I'm just going to skip ahead here. Oh yeah, and drop a grenade on these. Grenades you have to manufacture, they take time and resources. You know, everything has its pros and cons, although I'm going to say I think the game still needs very much a balance pass at this point. Yeah, this is the heavy weapons person. Although he's able to fly, his weapon can never seem to hit the target, but if you get in close and you hit it, you're going to do a lot more damage than those guys with the little guns down there, even though they are plinking away at targets from a long way across the map. So look, that's the basic mechanic of the combat scenes. The map scene has you looking around, finding various missions. The combat scene sees you moving your squad, possibly up to 8 characters. I think the highest I've had is 6 so far, but it depends on the technologies available to you. And the technologies that are available to you may depend on your ability to be diplomatic with multiple factions that all want different things from the Phoenix Project. This particular faction is the Disciples of Anu. They are all about like mutations. They think that they can evolve the humans to their perfect form, and that the Pandora virus, while it is definitely a threat, its effects should be embraced and channeled to make humanity better. The third faction is New Jericho, and I think this is probably going to be them. The New Jericho are essentially obsessed with purity. They are like the Imperium Space Marines. They want to wipe out every trace of the virus. They are using technology to do this. The Synedrian are kind of like halfway in between. And I will be clear, I don't like any one of these factions. I hate them all, and they can all die in a fire as far as I'm concerned. But I do want their technology, and I do want to save the Earth, because that's why I play these games. Okay, so how is this different from XCOM? What does it do differently? First of all, it basically models all the projectiles. Instead of rolling dice to figure out whether you hit and then applying modifiers based on cover, it pretty much just computes the trajectory of each bullet. And you notice in this case, the single trajectory of the bullet went through the target. It caused a lot of damage to the target and then hit the object behind it because it models penetration. This is my sniper just pointing the crosshairs on the target. You can choose to do that, or you can just accept the target that the game gives you. Now obviously it means different weapons have different spread, different range, different bullet drop. That's largely modeled in a very basic way. This is an assault rifle. At this range you see that the spread is pretty much constant. It fires multiple projectiles. They're all within that area. But also the targets are not monolithic objects. They have, you know, you can hit the head, the arms, they all have different effects on the target. You can also, say, go for the weapon, which if there is, say, a sniper in an unfortunate position, you could decide to go for the headshot, or since it's obscured by the trees, maybe you just shoot them in the gun so that that's not going to be any use for shooting back at you. I mean, sure, they're going to keep shooting at you with their dinky little pistol, but that'll give you a little bit of breathing room. All the hostiles have their own, you know, different abilities and different body parts, but also the body parts can get swapped out depending upon how the game is progressing. So you might find Arthrons, also known as crab people, with guns. You might later find them with giant pincers. Some of them have shields. They all will use those in different ways, and you know, you're going to have to identify when you're dealing with the hostiles what the best approach could be. Oh, you see, that was of course a reaction shot there. That's now using the shield as a defense. Oh yeah, and there's one of these beasties in here too. So you can still play this like a regular XCOM game where you just click on the target and ask your person to shoot. But if you want that extra control, then you can absolutely make sure you point the thing at the exact part that you want to try and disable. But there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to hit that given the level of precision available to your characters. Still, it's immensely satisfying to close right in and realize that you can put a bullet right between the eyes of the target, only to have it decide to use its chameleon-like abilities to hide from you. The game tries to also improve on XCOM by having large units. Units that are larger than a single square on the map, such as this tank. It can drive over things, crush things, and it also has this cool missile weapon that you can throw missiles halfway across the map. This takes the same space as like 3 of your troopers, but you can actually load 3 of your 4 of your guys inside if you want to drive around and blow things up. I just wish it had more ammunition, because when it's going, it's great, but you eventually get towards the end of the mission and you realize, oh, you suddenly don't have the firepower that you had early on. And to be clear, there are also hostile units, which I somehow don't have any footage of. But yeah, there are big targets that will come out as part of certain battles. Big bosses that you have to use, targeting of specific areas and use your big weapons. Just all the tricks you have to defeat some of these things. It's a pretty impressive event when it actually happens. And of course, there's plenty of variants within your units yourself. You can customize the look, you can mutate your people in some cases, you can add cybernetic or robotic enhancements and power armor and big guns or big hammers, or you can turn them into priests that are just, throwing virus weapons. I don't know. I'm not sure. The game balance, I think, needs a lot of work. I'm just going to say this. You're going to find certain things that work really well for you to the exclusion of all others. You'll also, as you explore the map, find your silly little stories that will affect your standings with the various factions. Some of these get a laugh. Some of these are just like really dark in ways that you don't quite realize until after you've clicked your way through them. Ultimately, it looks like it's a solid example of the genre. It's got a bunch of cool features that aren't in any other version so far, and I'm really sort of enjoying playing through it, which is, of course, why I didn't get to do all the work that I should have done this weekend. But hey, those kind of things happen. This is me just discovered an old Phoenix base. It looks like there might be 8 bases spread around the world, which would be in line with the number of continents, I guess. And of course, your bases, you can build them out, you can repair them, you can add facilities. And given that one of the things you can add is like an escape tunnel, I'm guessing there's going to be base defense missions or base evacuation missions where hostile forces come in and you are trying to fight a retreat. Those were always some of the best moments in these genres. Okay, this is just some straight up gameplay. This is a terror sentinel. I don't know, it looks like it's a whole bunch of people that have been turned into giants, and then they will scream at you if you get too close. So I want to kill this from as far away as possible. Good news is we've spawned into this level with the thing pretty much in sight, so we can sit here and more or less throw bullets into it. Rallying the troops to get them to move across the map a little faster. That's of course using my willpower. This guy, Calvin Veracht, is a close combat dude. He wants to get in close with his big hammer, and in doing so, he has spotted something. What has he spotted? Well, he spotted an egg and a giant Chiron. Chiron is one of these large beasties that we've been talking about. You'll note that there is actually a human head hanging off the front. These are all supposed to be mutated human beasties. We can go in and obviously see all the armor and the strengths and everything. The main thing to know is this has an abdomen which will toss poison bombs all the way across the map, and you want to take this thing out as quickly as possible before it gets in your way and causes trouble. Otherwise, you will have a lot of poisoned people. So yeah, the order of the day is to move my people into firing position so that they can hit this thing. Oh, and there's also one of these sirens here. Sirens are scary because they will take your troops and turn them against you, and that's an awful thing to have. So I've got to pick between killing something that throws explosives across the map and or preferably killing them both, but also there's the possibility of taking down that siren. Yeah, I think from this position there's only 2 people that I can shoot, but I'm going to have to make a choice. So this character is a bit of a bizarre combo because he's like a cultist berserker that is cross-trained into a sniper, and he's using the Gauss rifle that the new Jericho people use, which is perfect because he has the ability to take down armor, and he can apply that, I think he can apply that to his Gauss rifle. So ideally, we really want to, knock out the armor on its head, because I guess this has a lot of armor on its head due to its horns and things like that. So by using the armor break and then whacking that, we should remove the ability to confuse my troopers. Elsewhere, I have another berserker who was cross-trained with an assault trooper, so he has the ability to dash by using his willpower up, and I'm just basically moving him as close as possible. I'm moving him into close combat range against this big beastie, hoping that he can whack it hard and do a lot of damage. The close combat damage is pretty powerful if you use the correct classes. So I could stomp, but that probably wouldn't do anything. That basically confuses enemies within a certain radius, but this enemy has way too much willpower for this to be useful. So instead we're just going to use a strike with the big hammer. I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Nurgle's Wrath. I think that's actually the handgun. And now we have Kevin, who has a laser rifle. And you'll notice that it doesn't say that I can shoot normally, it's grayed out, but I can manually aim this thing and I'm still going to try and shoot the head. I only need a couple of hits and that will remove the ability that I'm most worried about. Also, did you notice that Kev spoke with a female voice there? That seems like they didn't actually assign gender to any of the names that were submitted by the backers, or indeed the game's community manager. So with the Siren mostly neutered for its scariest ability, I really want to get in and take out the poison bomb capability. So we've got this character that has this sort of, shotgun. I don't know, it does a whole lot of spread damage up very, very close. The shotguns are modeled by throwing out a lot of projectiles, and they seem to be surprisingly potent. Yeah, look at that thing. Wow, it does like a whole bunch of damage there, but I think it may still have some critical capabilities. Finally, I have my priest with their psychic powers, able to zap the Siren now, whose defenses are weak, willpower is low, and it's now panicked and will hopefully run away and won't cause any trouble to my buddies. Normally I'd be out of actions, but I used a special ability from my sniper to rally the troops, get them all excited for the cause, and that gave them a little more oomph. So some of them get to fire again, so we get a few more hits in on that Siren, but most importantly, my man Joe with a shotgun gets another shot in close. And I think at this point the turn is now over. It's time for the hostiles to do their thing. Thankfully, I've been ruthlessly efficient, and while I have put my people up close and in their face, I think I'm going to be okay. Oof, yeah, big spiky things. And of course he gets a reaction shot, but he is wounded heavily. Good thing is he has the medikit, so he'll be able to repair that. But I got away with surprisingly little damage, and to be fair, I am playing this on the easiest level, mostly so I could see as much of the story as possible to share with you. Yeah, these games I've played through on the most difficult levels, and they are punishing. They are brutal, and you do not get attached to your characters because they die all the time. I think it's great that we're finally getting another XCOM-like from the guy that created the XCOM-like genre. I think it's great that it includes a lot of mechanics we haven't seen in previous games. So yeah, it's something to look forward to. I think there's some balance issues, I'll be clear. If you've backed this, then you absolutely download it and play it tomorrow. It is exclusive to the Epic Store on PC right now. I think it is coming out on Xbox though as well. And if you backed before a certain date, you will get the 5 blocks of DLC available as well. There's a bunch of expansions coming. But anyway, the game is Phoenix Point. It's out tomorrow. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.